mercenary group that operates 24/7. There is no downtime for the Sea Org. I mean, yeah, you sleep at night, but sometimes that sleep is 3 or 4 hours a night. And that can go on for extended periods of time.
What do you mean by paramilitary? What is that?
I mean, uniforms, ranks, ratings. Yes, sir. No, sir. How high should I jump, sir? You go through a boot camp process called the Estates Project Force, where you're running around cleaning and doing grounds work and stuff and spending 5 hours a day studying L. Ron Hubbard's policies about how to be a Sea Org member. Because there's a whole another set of policies just for the Sea Org. I mean, Hubbard was... He wrote a lot.
And again, this is his military training that he's injecting into the organization that he has created. And it's his training as a Navy guy. Again, we can just always see how a religious movement grows out of the life experiences of...
Yes, absolutely. And Hubbard had started the Sea Org in 1967, and it was the management of Scientology, and it was ultimately responsible for delivering the upper level confidential services. That's all Sea Org. I joined the Sea Org and went into management. I went into org management. So I was overseeing the delivery. This is where I went straight to this. I went through the EPF, which took me 5 days because I was already a very educated Scientologist at this point. So I kind of blew through the EPF and arrived on what they call on post. My post was the assistant technical aide for the Western United States. And basically what that means is I was overseeing the delivery of Dianetics and Scientology services for all of the Western United States, which is basically Mississippi River West and including Hawaii, because there's a Scientology org out in Hawaii. So this was the largest Scientology geographical zone with the most Scientologists in it. And so we had high expectations. And my job now was to be the guy at the Sea Org end who received all those production statistics every week and looked at them and analyzed how the organizations were doing based on their statistics. And then giving direction and orders down to the orgs on what to do to raise their statistics, right? We would do analyses and we'd say, okay, well, 6 months ago, the statistics were in a much higher range than they are now. What changed? What's different? What were they doing then that they're not doing now? Let's get them back onto doing that. And that's a fairly sensible approach if that was all there was to it. But there was not. That was actually the least part of my job because the bulk of my job was spent dealing with these insane personnel demands that we would have come down on us all the time as managers to get people into training at FLAG, which is the place in Clearwater. They call that FLAG, the Flag Service Organization, or there in LA. Like I had gone to training when I was first a staff member. I'd gone down to LA and gotten this specialist training, and then I went back to my org so that I could supervise classes. Well, they have constantly, they're putting out these training programs to upgrade or improve the quality of the delivery of Scientology, and they demand that staff members come and get this training. And so a big part of my job was wrangling up people from all of these churches to come to LA or go to Florida and do this training. And there was a lot of heat and pressure on that because these were tiny little pipsqueak organizations. Santa Barbara was, I found out, just one of many pipsqueak tiny organizations that had been plodding along for years, not really doing well, the statistics would go up and go down and go up and go down. But if you could look at them on a long term, you'd see they were really going pretty much nowhere. And this was consistent across all of the Western United States. And it was a little eye-opening. I was like, wow, we got a lot of work to do. And I found myself kind of in a parallel position to how I was in Santa Barbara, where I'm working my ass off. I'm working as a Sea Org member, the most you're going to make a week is $50. It's a set pay. And
did they cover your living expenses and food?
Yeah.
And
they have that. The $50 is basically pocket change for whatever kind of personal things you need, because you're getting fed and you're getting birthed and you're getting uniformed. It's like living on a military base. Same kind of thing, right? You have a mess that you can go and eat at, and they're not charging you for that food. But sometimes the food is rice and beans.
Mm.
Sometimes the food is bad cereal. Sometimes it's runny eggs. I mean, you're not getting good food. It's food that can be, that they're barely paying for. Because all the money that's coming in is basically, most of it's getting funneled up, and we're not getting to keep most of it.
Yeah.
And I'm now operating in a Sea Org base in Los Angeles, the most prosperous Sea Org base outside of Flag in the world. We're making hundreds of thousands of dollars a week between all the different organizations that exist in those big blue buildings. There's 5 organizations there, and they were each one producing, a few $100,000 a week. But they had to keep the lights on. They had to buy the toilet paper. They had to pay for their food. And a bunch of that money was being sucked up the line to Miscavige land. So we really had drips and drabs left over to pay for our food, pay for new uniform parts. I mean, just as an example, just to kind of set the tone here, I had 2 shirts for about 6 years. That was it. I mean, I kept trying to put in for new shirts and never got the money approved to buy new shirts.
It's like a life. It's like a monk. It's like a life of poverty, really.
Exactly. But the difference is, and this is a really important difference, is that you're not told that's how it's going to be before you go in. When you go become a monk in a monastery, they try to convince you not to do it. I mean, I've looked into this. They tell you, dude, do you know what you're giving up? Are you aware of what your vows actually say and the fact that we're going to hold you to them? Do you know what this lifestyle is like? Do you really want this? And they like really work you over to make sure that you have what I would call informed consent. None of that exists in the Sea Org. You go into the Sea Org thinking that you're going to be making $50 a week, no questions asked. You don't. There were plenty of weeks where we got no money at all. And when you don't have money to get new underwear or socks or any snacks or a pack of cigarettes or something, those are the only little outlets you have anymore for anything personal. You start, kind of life gets a bit robotic and weird. Starts looking really weird after a while.